yourself a cold one.
They strike 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of The College Draft.
Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast, presented as always by DraftKings. Love this show. Love all of you that use the glorious code Ross at DraftKings, whether it's DraftKings Sportsbook or the DraftKings app, where a bunch of you have been sending me some screenshots or emails from sponsors or rating and reviewing the show because you want to get in on that best ball draft with me and Joe Dolan on the Fantasy Feast podcast, which I love. And actually, several of you used the code Ross on the DK Horse app over the weekend for the Belmont, which is awesome. Speaking of over the weekend, there was like a veritable football smorgasbord over the weekend. Thankfully, we have the world's foremost expert on non-NFL professional football, and that is the great Emory Hunt. Absolutely love Emory. We are continuing with our draft series today. It is the AFC South. So we only have 3 more weeks of this. Then we might have a guest or two, and of course, we're going to dive in to the top prospects in 2025, the top prospects in college football. When I'm talking about Emory, I'm talking about Emory Hunt at FBall Game Plan on Twitter, Football Game Plan on YouTube. And I really say this, and I believe this every year. It is not too late to get the draft guide. Well, what do you mean, Ross? The draft already happened. If you want to get scouting reports on every guy you're going to see in every preseason game in August, nobody has a more all-encompassing. You should change the URL, Emory, now from footballgameplan.com/2024 draft guide to footballgameplan.com/2024 preseason NFL guide, because they pretty much have a game on live on NFL Network the whole preseason in August, and you guys will be able to check it out, which will be absolutely awesome. And, of course, I'll be on a couple of those games, and Emory's draft guide is very helpful. I am at Ross Tucker NFL on social media. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. And, Emory, it was crazy, man. I was thinking about you all weekend. I'm watching these awesome UFL playoff games. The CFL kicks off. You're talking about that European league you love and like how some team built up their D-line and O-line. I mean, it's crazy how much football there was the first or second weekend of June.
Right, it's crazy, Ross, because you have this is something that we didn't have when we were coming out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you literally have football all year round. And it's cool because the UFL is now entering their championship game. We just saw their championship weekend. Shout out to Birmingham and shout out to San Antonio for making it to St. Louis for the title game on Father's Day. CFL kicked off week 1, which is always great. This is going to be the 111th Grey Cup, so they've been around for longer than 111 years, but they're celebrate their championship, 111 years later. And the European League of Football, that's where the next growth is, Ross, because we're seeing the offensive line and defensive line start to catch up. This is their 4th season, and tune in Saturday at noon Eastern time on their Game Pass. Because I'll be calling the Barcelona Dragons versus Helvetic Mercenaries game. I'm excited about that. So that's something to be amped about. And, we are seeing fully homegrown talent in Europe now start to catch up. So they're in year 4, and you only allow 4 Americans on each team combined on each side of the ball. So this is a true homegrown European league, and it's been fun to watch develop.
Dude, that is awesome. I didn't know that. That's amazing. Good for you. That's very cool experience to call that game. It's funny. I feel like there are some people catching on that the UFL has some pretty good players, and there's a lot of recognizable names. It's like A.J. McCarron, Hakeem Butler. I mean, there's a lot of guys that a lot of people know. And it was just so cool seeing what's it, the San Antonio Brahmas, how excited they were when they won and pouring the Gatorade on Wade Phillips. How about Wade Phillips? How about the football life he's having? 76 years old, just back in a championship game in a different league. It's cool.
It shows you that, to tie it into the NFL draft, that, man, listen, yes, we talk about the 90-man roster going into camp, and we know 45 of these guys will get cut, another maybe 20 or 15 assigned on the practice squad. So there's additional, 15 or 25 that'll be out, trying to find jobs. And that's where leagues like the UFL come into play and why it's so critical and vital for the football ecosystem. So guys that get cut off NFL rosters are really good football players. You can look at these UFL teams and essentially see the 33 through 40 NFL rosters, because that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I hope. Yeah, I've seen Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk has kind of come around and liking it. I've seen you post this, Emory, and I will agree. I'll never understand why some people seem so excited for and are rooting for these leagues to fail. It's the most bizarre aspect of, like, why does that make them happy?
Ross, it's almost like no one likes anything online. Like, all of a sudden now we have these diehard pre and post game NBA fans, right? That who's watching pre and post game shows like this and halftime shows where they're so adamant about this one sucks. Like, man, they're only about 5 minutes long. So I just think that when one person piles on, everyone it's a tribal nature. Everybody just continues to pile on. If everyone was posting about positive UFL games or positive experiences, then everybody will pile on and think this is the thing to do. So unfortunately, social media skews negative, and people just love being hateful for whatever reason. I don't understand it.
Let's start with the AFC South, Emory, and let's start with the Houston Texans. And this is how you know you got something good going, when you have the talent they have, the season they had, and then you still had this many picks. I mean, they had a lot of picks. We'll start with their 2 picks in the second round. Kamari Lassiter, the corner from Georgia, and Blake Fisher, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame.
Yeah, Lassiter has very good skills, solid skills in both man and zone coverage. So this is someone that does a great job in either scheme. So he was scheme diverse, in my opinion. And also, he's not afraid to get physical with the receivers. I think you've seen the clip of him challenging Stephon Diggs at the catch-20. That's how he plays the game. And that's how he's going to be able to play for Houston. He's probably going to end up being a starter. And Fisher was super solid on film. I had a 77 grade on Fisher. Like we talked about all throughout the draft season, this is a very deep tackle class. And, the Houston Texans were able to get someone that has starter level quality, a starter level grade, in my opinion, in the second round. So they're already off to a good start here without first round picks.
All right, so then you get to round 3, Kalen Bullock, safety from USC. Round 4, Cade Stover, tight end from Ohio State.
Yeah, Stover is a really good player, solid player. He's going to rotate within that depth chart. But Bullock was someone that has top-tier ball skills. Like, I want to say he had 24 PBUs, 9 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. Now, he's lean, and to use a basketball reference from the NBA draft, he's critically thin, right? You want to see him fill out his frame and continue to develop his body, but the ball skills are there. Like, he won't miss an opportunity to turn the ball away. And sometimes that could be the gift and the curse, because he'll take some risk and get himself out of position. But if he guesses right and it's on time, the ball is going back the other way and he's not dropping it.
All right, then they had a bunch of 6th and 7th round picks. Jamal Hill, a linebacker from Oregon. Jawar Jordan, a linebacker from Louisville. The other running back from Louisville, I should say. Solomon Byrd, edge USC. Marcus Harris, D tackle Auburn. And Ladarius Henderson, a guard from Michigan.
Listen, out of all of those guys, I was a big fan pre-draft, and I think I brought him up here on the show, of Jamal Hill out of Oregon. He's a former safety turned linebacker, so he has that speed. And when you have that speed, he ran 4.4 at his pro day, but you like the fact that he has upside still left in his game. Played linebacker 1 season last year at Oregon and parlayed that into a 6th round pick. This is someone that is going to be, I think, a starter down the line for Houston at worst. Or at worst right now as a rookie, he immediately helps you on special team with the new kickoff rule because he's good at open field tackling because he was a former safety. He has a great speed because he was a defensive back, and he's able to tackle rather well because he's a linebacker by trade. So you're getting someone that can still mold that into what you want. We've seen them do that with those San Francisco linebackers, and they're bringing that here to Houston.
What about any of the undrafted guys, Emory, from the Texans? Anybody jump out to you from their crop of undrafted players?
The Yankee twins from South Dakota State.
Yes.
They got both receivers to come to Houston. And if you watch a lot of FCS football and call some FCS football games, Ross, I know you'd be locked in on the FCS as well. The Yankee twins were outstanding for South Dakota State. You thought they were there for about a decade. and they're really good route runners. Both guys had really good weeks at the East-West Shrine Bowl, and it's a great story. The twins, they played together their whole life, high school, college, and now pro. I'm excited to see those guys kick off in the preseason.
I think it's a little bit interesting they would go to the same team, though, right? Like, they're very similar players.
Right.
Aren't they competing for the same spot? Like, they're probably roommates, like competing for the one practice squad spot. I mean, I want to talk, like, I want to get them on the show. Like, really? Like, do you guys realize how the math of this works? I'm not sure it's the best idea.
Listen, it's probably like that. I can't remember the name of the movie where they had the two twins running track. And, I forgot the name. It's going to come to me. I won't take up too much time. But it was a fun movie in the 90s.
Well, what's fun in the 90s and still fun now? Drinking Labatt Blue Light with your friends and family, living life to the power of we. I had a wonderful Labatt Blue Light weekend. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. All right, Emory, let's dive now into the Indianapolis Colts a little bit. We had talked a lot about Latu from UCLA in the first round. I can't remember what you said about A.D. Mitchell in the second round. There seemed to be a lot of conversation about him not going until pick 52.
It's crazy because he was my number 3 split in. I had an 82 grade on him, so that's a higher grade. They got themselves a bona fide number 1. To me, he's very much like C.D. Lamb. He's a catch and run threat. He could win on the outside. He could win on the inside. This was an excellent addition for the Indianapolis Colts.
What about, Emory, some of these other guys? In round 3, they took Matt Goncalves, the offensive tackle from Pitt. In round 4, Tanner Bortolini, the center from Wisconsin.
Bortolini was my number 1 center in the class, so I'm very high on him. And it looks like the Colts are going to work him in that guard. But, man, listen, we talk about sight unseen a lot. Wisconsin offensive lineman signed me up. But he was the best center to me in the class. So already off the bat, they got the, top 3 receiver and my number 1 center. So I'm already loving what the Colts done. And Goncalves is someone I had a 76 grade on. And he does a really good job of keeping his hands, and feet working well in unison. So he's never really out of position. Solid player on both sides. Had a really good week at the Shrine Bowl as well.
Keeping it moving with the Colts. Next up, they got I did one of this guy's games. Their 5th rounders. They had 3 of them. Anthony Gold, the wide receiver from Oregon State. Jalen Carlisle, the safety from Missouri, and Jalen Simpson, safety Auburn.
Simpson is listen, Jalen Simpson was my number 1 free safety. So I don't know if the Colts bought the draft guide, but it's looking like it, man, because it had an 80.5 grade on Simpson. Terrific instincts. Does a great job in staying disciplined. That was the part about the free safety position this year. Someone that you could trust back deep in deep third, that stays on that in his deep third and doesn't break until he sees the football and has the acceleration to get there. Gold is someone that plays a lot bigger than his listed weight. He's a lot stronger than people think, so he's able to break some tackles. It's going to fit right in their slot, and what they're going to work in there. But, man, I was a big fan of Simpson and what he brought to the table. Again, number 1 free safety. I like what the Colts have done so far.
Wow. And then their last 2 picks, Micah Abraham, corner from Marshall, and Jonah Laulu, the D tackle from Oklahoma.
Abraham, first of all, Sunbelt football shout out, but Abraham was really good at Marshall, man. There were a couple of corners, a couple of defensive players I thought were really good at Marshall. Abraham gives them something that they needed. I thought they should have gone corner earlier, but it also looks like they're going to put Jalen Simpson of Auburn at corner as well. But I thought Abraham was a really good pick, the fact that you got him that late in the draft.
What about on the undrafted list, Emory?
I'm looking at Jason Bean, who was a quarterback that they're now going to put at receiver. You know, I don't like that, but talking about him as a player, he saved Kansas this season. And to me, having him at quarterback would kind of give you what you have in Anthony Richardson in terms of an athletic guy, a +1 in the run game that can kind of keep your offense heading in that direction. If something happens, knock on wood, to Anthony Richardson, Bean would be right there. But him working at receiver, I know that was a talk when he was going into the Hula Bowl. It's unfortunate because he had a great week at quarterback at the Hula Bowl, got the call up to the East-West Shrine Bowl, and unfortunately he had the flu, and so he couldn't practice all week at the Shrine game, and that really bummed me out. And also, Derek Slikwa, the receiver from Ithaca, the Bombers, I have him graded as a free safety because he was a terrific defensive back at Ithaca, and they just signed him, and he's moving to receiver. So that's going to be fascinating to watch. Now, he does have 30 PBUs and 11 interceptions and 4 block kicks. So I get why he's 6'2", 215, but you kind of want that at safety. So it'll be interesting to watch how that plays out during the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, why not let him try a defense first if that's the position he was playing and excelled at? Let's get to the Jaguars, Emory, and their first-round pick was Brian Thomas. I think we've talked about it. I had Sean King on the show, the former NFL quarterback. He loves Brian Thomas. He had him as his number 1 receiver. He thinks he's going to end up being the best guy.
Yeah, Brian Thomas, listen, you don't find guys. He was my number 4, split in with an 81 grade. So I'm high on him as well. Pro Bowl grade, Pro Bowl type talent. You don't find guys that's that big, that is that good after the catch. He's 6'3", 205, but he runs like a slot guy once he has the football in his hand. So he can win short, intermediate, and deep down the field. This was a huge get for Jacksonville to get him where they listen, I'm not surprised he went in round 1 because he was a fantastic receiver. I know he was pegged to go to Buffalo a lot in these mock drafts, but going in round 1 was the consensus, and they got a good guy in Thomas.
And then, Emory, some of their other picks, round 2, Mason Smith, D-tackle, LSU. Round 3, Jerrion Jones, corner, Florida State.
Mason Smith was someone that, he's going to be coming off the injury, his second year removed from the injury, so we should see the Mason Smith we saw prior to last year when he was a superstar freshman. So I'm excited about the upside and him getting back to full strength. Jerrion Jones was my number 2 slot corner. Had an 80 grade on him. He was one of those dudes that stood out the Shrine Bowl. Florida State's secondary was outstanding this year, and they had guys that can just match up. In my first line of his scout report, excellent football awareness and IQ. He sees the game from an all-22 perspective. When you have that type of bird's eye view of conceptually, you're going to be a tremendous guy. And we know slot corner is a very hard position to play in the NFL, and he is someone that was excellent on film.
All right, what about their 2 round 4 picks, Emory? Javon Foster, offensive tackle from Missouri, and the 37th Jordan Jefferson to get drafted out of LSU at D-tackle. It's unbelievable.
Listen, he's explosive off the ball, number 1. I can't keep up if, how many, are they all related? You know what I'm saying? It's the same. I don't know. But Jordan Jefferson.
Well, they can't be related if they have the exact same name, right? I mean,
right. So it's crazy, but he's a good defensive tackle. They needed good depth, explosive off the ball, and when you're able to win like that, it gives you a chance to be successful. And Foster's a very good tackle prospect coming out of Missouri. Missouri point of attack play the last 4 years have been solid, and they're approaching sight unseen territory, in my opinion, on either O-line or D-line.
Got it. All right, and then the last 4 guys. DeAndre Prince, the corner from Mississippi. Keelan Robinson, running back, Texas. Cam Little, kicker from Arkansas. Miles Cole, DN from Texas Tech.
Robinson should instantly help out their special teams because he's a good returner. And Prince was someone at a 75 grade on, good acceleration, closed on the ball well. Good size, 6 feet, 185, and just like to see him be a little bit more consistent with his hands on a receiver. But outside of that, the athleticism, he matches up well.
Undrafted guys, Emory?
Josh Cephas had a fantastic all-star circuit, from the Hula Bowl to the East-West Shrine Bowl. Very good receiver out of UT San Antonio, UTSA. That's someone that I had a very high grade on. Shocked that he's in Jacksonville because their receiving core looks stacked, but that's the one guy I want everyone to definitely keep an eye on because he's going to be a phenomenal player for them.
Feels like there's a lot of Cephases, too. All right, let's get to the Tennessee Titans. We spent a bunch of time talking about J.C. Latham. I'll be curious to see how the move to left tackle goes for him. But I really wanted to get your thoughts on Tavondre Sweat, who went in the second round from University of Texas, the big defensive tackle.
He takes up two gaps in a good way, so he is naturally a two-gapper, but he was a problem for Texas. He was my number 2 nose tackle, 77 grade, and you want to see him develop a little bit more so. As I know people thought Dexter Lawrence was a one-dimensional, but you saw some flashes of pass rushing ability at Clemson. You want to see some of that from Sweat outside of him just being a tremendous run defender. But if he can stay, straight on the field, he is going to be excellent for Tennessee.
Dexter Lawrence is a rare guy to go against a guy like that. Yikes. All right, round 4, they took Cedric Gray, linebacker from North Carolina. Round 5, Jarvis Brownlee, cornerback from Louisville.
Brownlee was my number 3 field corner with an 82 grade. People forget he was injured for the most part of last season, got healthier as the season went on. He is a lockdown guy. Had a fantastic Senior Bowl. So Tennessee got themselves a gem. I know they don't want to hear about corners that are coming off injury because they kind of had that issue in the secondary already. But this is someone that can really play that position, man. Good ball skills, good instincts, and just a phenomenal player. He was at Florida State from 2019 to 2021. Louisville can't produce them, especially with their cornerback coach out there. Does a great job.
And then some of their other picks, you've got round 6, Jaquan Jackson, wide receiver from Tulane. Round 7, James Williams, safety, Miami. And Jalen Harrell, edge, Michigan. Michigan had so many guys get drafted. It's just unreal.
Yeah, and Harrell shows comfort and awareness when asked to drop in a short zone. So he's someone that you can trust. He has good size, 6'3", 250. So he kind of fits that edge role, can drop back in coverage, can get pressure on the quarterback, good quickness to close. So I like his ability, especially as a sub-package player in Tennessee's defense.
What about on the undrafted list here, Emory, for the Titans?
Dylan Johnson, the running back out of Washington, is very intriguing. I thought he would have gotten drafted, but he's someone to watch here. And I also thought that Keaton Ellis was a guy that thought he was going to get drafted. Coming out of Penn State, he didn't. He's a safety, but definitely has good instincts and ball skills.
It's amazing how many guys like Keaton Ellis. He was a corner at Penn State, and as a young player, really did some positive things. And then he got moved to safety. Everybody's doing that. Everybody's taking corners and moving them to safety. And it makes sense, right? Because as much as those guys have to cover now.
Right, especially when you think about having the ball skills. And if you're taking safeties and moving in the corner, you kind of want somebody that can be physical, help you keep steady versus the run. On the back end, you want someone that can kind of see the ball and go get the ball. And that kind of makes sense when you think about inverting those positions in that way.
All right, so Emory, what are we watching this weekend, and what should we keep an eye on? We got the UFL Championship. We got CFL Week 2. Which of those leagues do you think is better?
I think they're both one and the same because they both pull from the same pool of players. And if you want to compare the CFL, UFL, and European League, watching the UFL and the European League and CFL, you kind of say, okay, this is like Power 5 versus Division 2 ball if those leagues were to play each other. So CFL, UFL are one and the same, and the European League still has a ways to go in terms of getting that O-line, D-line up to speed, but you like the progress they've made in the last 4 years.
Love it. You got to make sure you check him out on social media always. And this weekend, how can we watch that game again, Emory?
Go to European League of Football, subscribe to their Game Pass, and watch the Barcelona Dragons take on Helvetic Mercenaries, which is a fantastic, mascot name. And you'll hear me on the call. So it's going to be fun because guess who's the quarterback of the Barcelona Dragons? Levi Lewis of the University of Louisiana.
Nice. Check him out on social media at FBall Game Plan, as well as Football Game Plan on YouTube. A lot of you watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I am at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. Other than that, the keg is kicked. We are all tapped out. AFC North next week.
Thanks for tuning in to College Draft. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and Fantasy Feast, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.